Hello, this is David Perlman, and
Heather Cox.
so we are here today. It's MS Office Hours. Today is Thursday, May 14th. We're in our 8th or 10th or 12th week, depending on where you live, of seeing too much of our friends and family, or not enough of our friends and too much of our family. Today, we're delighted to have Stephanie Stevens with us. Heather, if you'd like to do an intro for Stephanie, and we'll spend 20, 25 minutes speaking and a little bit of Q&A towards the end.
Awesome. Yeah, I am super excited to have Stephanie with us. Not only because she is brilliant at what she does, but she is a dear friend of mine and actually my former employer, actually. So, and I still like her. That's how great I think she is, and wanted her to come on and talk to us a little bit today. Where we talk a lot of IT with some of our MS Office Hours, and Stephanie though has a great she has a great background in instruction, and we'll talk also too about how important IT is in this whole scenario. But Stephanie, start us off and just kind of tell us what is iTeach? What do you guys do? Just give us kind of a quick overview of what that is.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to plug in today, and any chance I think right now that we get to kind of contribute to the greater knowledge bank and the motivation bank helps us all. So thank you for that. And yes, I get the honor and privilege of leading a motley crew at the Bagwell College of Education at Kennesaw State University. I say motley because we are all background educators, began our careers on the mean streets of K-12 education, and so have seen the rise and fall of legislation, have seen the rise and fall of lots of things that have disrupted what education looks like, and certainly we're back in the thick of something right now. And so our team is comprised of 35 folks who are educators, media specialists, IT professionals, administrators, who have all come out of K-12 to work in this College of Education in a service unit. And so while our colleagues and peers are focused on pre-service educator preparation and graduate level degree programs and certifications, we're focused on K-12 educator coaching and practice as it pertains to personalized learning, instructional technology, online teaching and learning. And so as you can imagine, we've been really busy the last few months and sort of having people withdraw from the bank that we've put deposits into for the last several years in the partnerships that we've got. So we contract with folks in and outside of the state of Georgia. We've got folks that we work with across the country and internationally. We support every manner of educator from the classroom level all the way up to district administration, and are happy to do that. And really frequently our team is sort of the fulcrum between those two sides of the house, right? The instructional side and the informational side of technology. From a systems approach, that's really essential to making sure that everybody is provisioned with what they need to be successful in a time like this, and in a time like we're going to see moving forward in the future. So that's a little bit about our team, and just excited to plug in today.
Yeah. So, okay. Speaking of the future, actually, just recently saw, that our awesome CEO here at Microsoft, Satya Nadella, kind of described there's 3 phases of this pandemic. There's the respond, which I think like everybody just kind of did immediately respond. There's the recover, which I think pieces that, a lot of us are sort of moving into the recovery as we've gotten settled in what's happening. And then the final one is reimagine. Mm-hmm. So what if you were to reimagine as you think forward, as you think about what's to come, whether it's K-12 or whether it's higher education, how is this reimagined in terms of learning?
Sure. Well, I think interesting proposition for sure, and none of us really know. And so what's happening right now is everyone's thoughts and ideas and ideation are swirling, and it's sort of like reading tea leaves. You have to take all of those signals that you're picking up and try to make meaning of them. And something that I've really valued as a part of my professional learning as I've grown in my role and in my career is that I spent some time at the Institute for the Future learning about future casting and futuring. And that process has supported my thinking as we go forward. And certainly if I imagine the futures, I'm not just thinking about this fall. I'm not just thinking about next year. I'm certainly thinking a 10 to 20 years out, because a stone thrown in the pond today, that's the ripple that we really should be focused on while we're trying to respond to the current time. So I love what Satya said there, but I think as we respond now, we really need to reimagine 10 and 20 years out and take a hold of the opportunity that we have now. So in the fall, do I think things will look different? Absolutely. I think more and more what I've heard from superintendents and others is this general sense of we're going to plan for 3 options. You know, it's sort of the coach or the quarterback on the sideline of a game saying, here's the 3 plays that we know we can run when we're under pressure. And depending on how that defensive line stacks up, that's how we're going to move it forward. And so right now, I think I see a plan A is fully remote, right? We're going to just drop back and wait to see what their coverage is, and then we'll run an option. And so that's one side of it. The other side of it, you do see some folks thinking about, let's do a full plan forward for getting as much face-to-face time inside that physical brick and mortar schoolhouse as we can, knowing that we need to structure a lot of these supports in the background to be able to respond when we have another wave, another surge, whatever it is. And there's every manner of option in between. Interestingly, in the last week, we've seen a couple of districts in smaller states, like not smaller physically or geographically, but smaller population density, like Montana, start to reopen, where they really were relatively untouched by COVID. And it's going to be interesting to see how that compares to some of the bigger districts. Certainly in the metro Atlanta area where we're located, you've got Georgia, which is a rural state by and large, and most of the students are served in very rural places. But then you have these hyper dense population centers like Atlanta that you just can't control how people move in and out of county lines. And so while a school district, an LEA, might be a county, if they make a decision, they can't make a decision without consultation with all of the LEAs that surround them. Certainly in a metro area of any size, that's going to be important. So as I reimagine it, I think that what we're going to see is a better focus on preparing everyone working in the education, healthcare, all of these industries that we know are going to just be substantively changed moving forward. I think there's going to be this huge focus on getting a posture of flexibility, a posture of growth-mindedness, and so that we get more comfortable with not really knowing everything that the future will look like, but that we're really comfortable in not knowing, and that we can be really malleable as we move forward. And so whatever that physically takes shape as, I think we all just should prepare ourselves for that. You know, I know that my mental health has certainly suffered trying to be mom and teacher and director and, you know, doctoral candidate and all the other titles, and wife, where did I leave him at? I don't know. But all of the titles that go into it. And so how do we also, as people in leadership, take care of our teams in this time and make sure that we can emotionally thrive in an environment that's really difficult to do so. So I think schools and districts you're going to see even more of a surge in the amount of attention they put into social emotional learning, not just for their students, but also for their faculty and staff. And I think higher ed, you know, what we're seeing too, big, huge university system out in the state of California has already pivoted to fully virtual, fully remote for the fall semester. We've seen smaller K-12 districts already cancel all fall sports. And so interesting conversation to see when that scale will tip. There are a lot of districts who like to be first on the line. This is not a place where anybody wants to be first on the line, because first on the line is first on the firing squad. I think nationally you've seen the attention that Georgia has gotten as one of the first states to reopen, and positive or negative and wherever your beliefs lie. It's always been hard to be at that front bleeding cutting edge of innovation and education, because you take the positive, but you also take the hit on the chin. And so right now, I think everyone's sitting back as much as they can, waiting for some of the big guys to take the first step. And then we'll start to see, probably in a week to 2 week period of time, my guess is early to mid-July, we'll start to really hear what everybody's planning for.
Yeah. So you brought up a lot of good points. One of the things that's kind of interesting, so within the confines of like I teach, right, in the organization that you work with, what are the kinds of questions that you're trying to bridge between, let's say, you know, educators and faculty? What are the new skills that we need to teach them, or how do we prepare parents as part of this journey? So how do we get the folks that, you know, we're supporting in different ways, because we're kind of at the middle of it too sometimes.
Sure.
You know, what does that look like from your perspective, or what are some of the assets you're getting from your customers at iTeach?
Yeah, we really are trying to, well, I guess it's in phases, right? So at the early stage, we were really trying by air, by land, by sea to put out as much assistance, support, whether that came in the form of documentation or thought partnership or whatever, free, open net, do whatever you can. And then it really is a very interesting conversation about how you then start to pivot that firefighting to a more strategic approach to helping people move forward. And so as far as assets, we really are positioned interestingly in a point where we're a nonprofit, we're this unit that seeks to help first, we're part of a public institution, but we're a self-sustaining unit. And so it's been an interesting finagle of how do we support people while also supporting ourselves. And I think what has been more annoying to me than anything is that some of the outliers in the ed tech field have taken this as an opportunity to sort of ambulance chase in a way. Everybody who ever had my email address from everywhere sent me an email saying, we know how to silver bullet fix your COVID problems. Here, we're going to give you this free access for 3 months. And then all of a sudden you're going to get hooked. And then we're going to all move forward into the shiny rainbow sunset together. Well, that's just really, it's in poor taste. And what I've loved about what I've seen from Microsoft is that you've taken a leadership stance. And listen, everybody has a bottom line, but what I've seen from Microsoft hasn't been about that bottom line. It's been about how fast can we iterate and provision new functionalities, new features? How can we take people up to that A4 level to get, live graduations cast? How can we provide what we can, knowing that if we help people and they do the right thing for kids and they do the right thing for students, then that's how you grow a community of support and how you have sustainability. Heather's Sway is a great example of that. Early on, as people were just slapping resources out on the internet, hoping that people would find them, she helped to curate things together and create a good flow of where people could find things. My team, again, has been putting out as much as we could. Early on, we weren't just finding a lot of stuff out there for Spanish language families. And so we tried to create some of those resources as well. My background is in ELL and Spanish education, and so I had a heart for that. I think you find your niche and you find where your heart and your passion lies. And then if you live in that lane, then those you support will bring into it what they can. I think the other piece of this is that people don't know what they need and they don't know what they don't know. And I've made a lot of assumptions, I think, historically in my career about what my role to play was. And that's just been completely upended. And I'm thankful for that, but it also is very challenging. I think that it could have been very easy for me to ride in with a savior mentality because I'm very good at leveraging technology, because I understand how kids and teachers learn and teach with technology. I could have very easily said, well, here, let me fix this, let me do this, let me do this. But we would have completely lost this sandbox of everybody else bringing all of their baggage into it and figuring it out together. And so that's hard to sit back and say, listen, I probably know how to fix this for you, but I'm not going to fix it. I want you to figure it out and fix it for yourself. So that's been a challenge. People like me don't get roles with the name director in them because we're not type A and like taking control. And so it's been really hard to sit back in it and not let that flag wave.
A truer statement has never been made, as Heather and I are just laughing as I say, hey, Heather, go run with this thing. Oh, wait, but do this other thing. Oh, I'll just double check, right? She already knows me well enough. So you mentioned a good thing, right? Heather found an opportunity, right? So aka.ms// let's see if I get it right, COVID-19 edu.
Yeah.
So aka.ms// COVID-19 edu. And there's a wonderful example, Heather, where we were getting drowned, right, in this big 130,000 person organization. Hey, edu, we want to help. And, she took some personal initiative. And I think that's a ongoing process for you as things come out and, you update that. And all of a sudden, however many thousands of people have looked at that. So,
well, and there's a lot of KSU and a lot of those free resources that Stephanie mentioned are on there. And they're really fantastic. They've got a lot of great Microsoft focused resources on there. Steph, I want to circle back to something that you said. You said, you are heavy in instruction, but you said everybody needs to play a part in this. Yeah. And so I want to bring back that everybody, meaning IT. We know that it's a heavy instruction time, but where does IT play a part in this in this picture or this puzzle, and how can they continue to help support making the right choices as we move forward?
Sure. Well, and I think too, I should probably preface this by saying my love language is analogy and metaphor. So follow with me if you will. But
I know I love the football one earlier. I really, I appreciated that. So I'm ready for a new analogy here.
It's too many years of teaching middle school that you had to like make it not about what the thing was. So anyway, I do think that everybody needs to fight to be, and I'll use this, sort of cultural reference to Hamilton, like in the room where it happens. Everybody has a part to play here. And if you're not in the room where it happens, then you are going to feel immense amounts of regret, frustration. And I think a lot of people who are not going to elbow into the right position right now, no matter which side you fall on, are going to find themselves really unfulfilled professionally. Yeah. And probably a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to see some mass exodus in and outside of education, whether you're instructional or in IT, whatever that looks like. And so I think, number one, authorize yourself as important enough to have a part to play. Get in the room where it happens. Number two, instruction doesn't fly without all of the mechanics behind it being placed in the right way. And I can tell you that from, let's call it 8 years ago, I participated in a beta pilot with the Amplify tablet when that was a thing. It's not even alive anymore, and it was a beta. And a beta was built to break. But we are no longer in a beta stage right now. We can pilot instructionally, but we are in a place where IT knows the right way to structure things to make them hum. And all that does is create an ecosystem of trust and support on both sides of the house. And so, the role to play here is, when you have a superintendent, when you have an executive leadership staff that's saying, okay, well, let's buy this now, and let's buy this now, and let's do this adoption, and let's do this now, and let's get another resource. Sometimes it takes someone to say, hey, look at this full ecosystem of what we're offering. You're wanting this resource because you've seen Joe down the road in District X using this and they're having good results. But do you know we actually have that functionality built into our overall system already? And here's what it looks like. And hey, yeah, a usage report is great, but a usage report does not an instructional story tell. And so when you're trying to kind of have those conversations, I think IT has a great opportunity here to take a leadership role and really dig through the data, right? Data, nobody in education went to school to be a data scientist, but they all talk about data. And so they really need somebody to debrief the data. That's the key, is not to just give me numbers and charts and spreadsheets, but to really say to me, hey, yes, I know you want to do X instructionally, and the only way I know that is because I've had a conversation with you. We got to cross the aisle. And so I know, based on our conversations, this is the kind of instruction you want to make happen. Here are all the tools and software that you told me that you have seen being used in classrooms. And here's what we support, here's what we provision, and here's how you can tell that instructional story with what we have. And again, supported. The term is supported. If it's not supported, especially in a time like this, when you have parents trying to manage this at home, students trying to manage it on their own, if they can't call the help desk centrally at that district and know that they're going to reach someone who knows that supported tool or platform, people are going to have a huge PR problem on their hands. And so the more that you can pull that back into the one big top tent and get everybody in the same circus, you can still have crazy things happening inside that tent, but in the same circus, then I think it's better for everyone. And again, this is the time where if you have that little nugget inside of you that's saying, listen, people don't listen to me, I'm never given the opportunity to say what I really think is best. Nobody can say right now that they know what's best. And I think it's a really interesting opportunity because leaders are forged in times like this. And I think everyone innately has leadership within them. And so if you need me to christen you as such, here it is. Right? Let's move it forward and let's really put your best energies and efforts forward to being a leader in whatever your lane is, because nobody else is in that lane. You're in that lane and you have that information and that authority to bring it forward.
So Stephanie, we have about 5 minutes left here or so. We had a question from the community. So, we see all these things in the news, right, about budgets and, there's furloughs and all these other things, right? So how can I, as either from an instruction standpoint And I'm thinking more specifically, perhaps around K through 12, right? How do we take kind of some of the learnings that you're seeing and you're kind of sharing with some of us? Where do we find those areas of thought leadership? So when we do get challenged enough that we decide, hey, we're going to step out on a limb and try to be that leader, who should we be speaking to and about what kind of things? Obviously there's all these educational outcomes that we're all focused at. Pretty sure, right? Budgets aren't going up, right? We're pretty sure about those things.
Right.
So how do we have the most impact from the roles that we sit in as instructor, educator, IT person?
Yeah, well, I would start by saying that in a time like this, and listen, I'm going to be affected by furloughs too. As a part of the University System of Georgia, I'm looking at about 8 furlough days coming down the line. We're all being touched by this. And so what I would say to everybody is, number one, as you start to step out, realize that job creep is going to happen. That's probably going to tick you off a little bit. Just live in that for right now. Like, there's no way to prevent that in a time of furlough. And so if you're one of those people that has a very legalistic view of like, this is my role, this is not my role, this is my job, that is your job, you're going to have to start blurring the lines a bit. And that's where true teamwork comes to play, and where people will really start to build positive culture that will, again, you're making a deposit into the culture bank that you can withdraw from when we have this in the rear view mirror. The other thing I would say is, as you start to bring things forward, don't bring them forward with an air of, let me solve a problem for you, but really come forward with a, can I ask you some questions so that I can really understand your situation, and let's work together on this. So before you ever go to a CIO, before you ever go to a director of instructional technology, before you ever go to the assistant superintendent for learning and teaching, which are the people that you should be talking to eventually, you better have had lots of good conversations where you ask questions and then you listen intentionally to the responses of people on whichever side you're not. So if I'm the director of mathematics, or if I'm the curriculum supervisor for mathematics, I better have a conversation with all of the IT department, reach out and say, hey, can 2 or 3 of you meet with me? I'd like to talk to you about what I'm seeing and see if we have a solution for it. Or vice versa. Hey, can I meet with you, STEM director, and figure out what tools that I saw these requests come in for all these apps. Can we have a conversation about what teachers are wanting to do, or what kids are able to do from remote locations with these things? And only then can you have those conversations with folks in upper leadership that say, hey, this has been informed by multiple people in multiple roles, all focused on the understanding that this is about student success, right? And teacher efficacy. This is not about what makes my job easier. This isn't about me, throwing my weight around about how important I am. Framing it all in that way and having all of those pre-conversations bulletproofs your mission. And again, you have to be a creative storyteller at some point too. You have to be able to say, hey, I had this conversation, here's what I'm hearing. And in the background, I know that this is really the best thing from an infrastructure standpoint, from a support standpoint. And so how do we marry those things together?
No, that's really interesting. And I know Heather and I have been, and many others on our team have been trying to figure out how do we, we have all these various things that we're trying to get done. And then, we're looking out to next year in much the same way the educators are.
Yep.
And the amount of stuff, honestly, that's as Microsoft employees and thought leaders, it's on our plate. It's daunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a graphic in here, maybe, some of us can collaborate, which is like the 7 stages of pandemic, innovation or something, right? First it's, hey, I don't have to go in the office today. Then it's, oh, I still have to get my job done.
Right.
Oh, maybe I'll be furloughed, right?
And then, stages of grief turned into the stages of pandemic.
Exactly, right? Acceptance stuff is out here somewhere. So, maybe Heather, when I'm bored and I get a chance.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Look at some of that stuff. So we're all learning new things, right?
Yeah.
And in the last couple of minutes here, and I sorry, maybe 50 seconds, a minute. What's just the key 1 or 2 takeaways that we should go back to our leadership teams with, or if we're in leadership, the things that we should be aware of? And then we'll have to call an end to this because I know you've been you're in the middle of a lot of things.
Yeah, I think number one, approach all of this with empathy. This is a time when you need to not only be self-preserving in your approach, but you need to be empathetic with every, and to use a technical term, end user. You need to think about the student as an end user, their parents who are now their teachers who are still their teachers, and all the way through the chain. And whether that's higher ed or K-12, it applies. So be in a posture of service and a posture of empathy. I think the other thing to really move forward is that when you dump your bucket out, you have to have a faucet to turn on somewhere else. Plug into this community, plug into others that you feel supported in and that you feel uplifted by, because those are the ways that you can sustain yourself through the hard times, is to know that you're not in it alone. And there will be an end to this. There is hope at the other side. I just hope that we don't waste a crisis. I hope that we can carpe the crisis, and that we can really think 10, 20 years down the line, and what a great ripple we will have if we take the power and potential of what's happening right now and turn it into something good.
That's awesome.
So this has been great, Heather. Any parting words?
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate it. You guys, obviously, you've just listened to Stephanie talk. So the fact that I left working for that organization shows you just how great Microsoft is as well, because she's an awesome leader. So Stephanie, thank you. I appreciate you coming on here to give us your insight today. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you. I wrote down a bunch of things. I love the, there's a couple of areas. Job creep, I think that was one of those critical things that I took away.
Mm-hmm.
And really appreciate your time. And if anybody does have any questions, feel free to email or in the Teams channel. Stephanie is now a member, I believe, correct?
I think so, yes.
And often you are. So really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. And on that note, everybody have an awesome week and weekend. And let me hit stop here, and we will edit some of this out.